President, do you agree with your lawyers what they said on Tuesday, that you should not be prosecuted or could not be prosecuted if you ordered SEAL Team 6 to kill a political opponent?
Well, you're talking about a totally different case, the immunity. I say this, on immunity, very simple. If a president of the United States does not have immunity, he'll be totally ineffective because he won't be able to do anything, because it will mean he'll be prosecuted, strongly prosecuted perhaps, as soon as he leaves office by the opposing party. So a president of the United States, I'm not talking just me, I'm talking any president, has to have immunity.
So with the 2024 election in full swing, Donald Trump's pitch to voters right now is that a president deserves full immunity even if he wants to have his political rival assassinated. And that's why you should vote to give him a second term. I don't know about you, but when I'm thinking about who I want to vote for president, I always take into account which person wants to murder his opponent. Now, Trump claims here that you have to have immunity because if you don't, you'll be prosecuted as soon as you leave office, which, by the way, is utter nonsense. A president does have civil immunity already, which is what Trump is referring to here. No one can prosecute him for his policy decisions, nor should a president be able to be subject to those lawsuits for that, because they would be wrapped up in endless litigation. However, the notion that a president should also be subject to criminal immunity for violating criminal statutes is insane and would suggest, in no uncertain terms, that a president is above the law. I understand how Trump desperately wants that to be the case, but that is wholly and completely antithetical to what our country stands for. Remember, the US was founded in opposition to the British monarchy. So when Trump suggests that the founders somehow wanted a president to have immunity, just like a king, how would that make us any different from the system that we were escaping? This whole thing is completely devoid of basic logic and an even cursory understanding of history, which of course is pretty on brand for Donald Trump. Consider too, Trump is arguing that a president has the power to assassinate his political rival. Does he even hear himself? Does he think that Joe Biden then has the right to have him assassinated, and so long as Joe Biden isn't convicted in the Senate, then he's home free? Of course, if Trump was asked that, I'm sure suddenly he'd change his tune because he thinks that the power and loopholes and allowances should only apply to him. I actually asked my Legal Breakdown co-host Glenn Kirshner about this idea, and here's what he had to say. Glenn, if Trump's lawyers are arguing that a president is covered by complete immunity, even if, he has his political opponent assassinated, are they not also de facto suggesting that Joe Biden could literally do that to Donald Trump and that Trump has no recourse?
Yeah, Joe Biden never has to leave office if Trump wins this argument. He's not going to win the argument. I am confident of that. But there is this almost philosophical discussion I've been having with friends and colleagues lately. If the courts rule that Donald Trump has absolute presidential immunity and commit any and all crimes he wants, including crimes designed to unlawfully retain the power of the presidency, then the reality is America has been converted into a dictatorship. And if people had to choose a dictator, Donald Trump or Joe Biden, who are you going to choose? Right. I know this is like an insane discussion to be having, Brian, but that's exactly where we would end up if the courts ruled Donald Trump has the absolute immunity he is seeking. But rest assured, the courts will not so hold. I mean, honestly, what are we even doing here? The idea that Trump is trying to normalize the prospect of a king in the United States of America is all the proof you need that the GOP has given up entirely on protecting democracy. They don't want it. They want a king. They beat their chest constantly about how they're these alphas, but at the end of the day, they want to be ruled by someone. They want someone who they think is strong and scary to rule them, which is nothing more than a tacit admission of how weak they actually are. And what's worse is that Trump can't even just write this off as a fluke. He didn't just accidentally mention that he thinks a president should have the power to kill his opponents. He said this numerous times. Here he was again this week.
Numbers came out today that are really very mind-boggling if you happen to be Joe Biden. And I think they feel this is the way they're going to try and win. And that's not the way it goes. That'll be bedlam in the country. It's a very bad thing. It's a very bad precedent. As we said, it's the opening of a Pandora's box, and it's a very sad thing that's happened with this whole situation. When they talk about threat to democracy, that's your real threat to democracy. And I feel that as a president, you have to have immunity. Very simple. And if you don't, as an example, if this case were lost on immunity, And I did nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong. I'm working for the country. And I worked on very hard on voter fraud because we have to have free elections. We have to have strong borders, we have to have free elections. Those two things almost above all. And we found tremendous voter fraud. We have a list of it. We have some findings if you want it. The press doesn't like reporting it, but we found tremendous voter fraud, determinative voter fraud. But we worked on that. That's what I was doing. And they were talking about after. Well, nothing has to do with after I left. It was during the time. And that was what they really focused on today during the appeal. And they concede that, and everybody concedes that, and if it's during the time, you have absolute immunity.
Right. The Pandora's box here isn't that a president having immunity would allow him to literally do anything. The real Pandora's box is prosecuting someone for breaking the law when that person believes that it doesn't apply to him. Got it. Also, Trump and Republicans keep trying to make the point that prosecuting a former president is the opening of Pandora's box, that it's a slippery slope. But here's the thing. Fine. If the precedent becomes that presidents are prosecuted for outright violations of the law, then good. If Joe Biden does it, he should be prosecuted too. That should be the standard for everyone, regardless of political party. I'm completely fine with that. But it's not some slippery slope. That is literally how it's always been in this country. And by the way, on this claim that he needs immunity because all he was doing was innocently working on voter fraud, which he purportedly found in massive numbers, if he found voter fraud, why not bring it up in any of the other 65 cases that Trump and his allies brought forward in the aftermath of the 2020 election? Why not bring it up in front of the judges who Donald Trump himself appointed? You mean to tell me that Trump had proof of fraud and that he was the rightful winner of the election, and that Republican judges who he appointed weren't receptive to those claims? Tell you what, it sounds like either these Republican judges are all in secret cahoots with Joe Biden and the Democrats, or Donald Trump is full of shit and can't actually back up a single claim that he's making. Take all the time you need with that one. So look, I know the inclination may be to watch this and feel worried, but remember that this is not coming from a place of strength. This is coming from a place of weakness, a place of fear and desperation, and importantly, recognition that he's being held to account for his own actions. That he needs to stand there and suggest that a president is above the law, a legal theory so patently absurd that it's all but certain to get laughed out of the courtroom, is a testament to just how screwed this guy is. All he's going to accomplish here is momentary delay before this is thrown out of the courtroom and his DC prosecution once again moves forward. So he may think he's helping himself, but this will change nothing other than to broadcast just how nakedly authoritarian he is. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to this channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.